perfect. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. Hi guys. My name's Robin Sheriff, and I founded the Fermenters Guild. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what the organization is, what it serves to do, and its general purpose. I'll talk about the formation and the history of it, how it grew, what its purpose is, what we've achieved, and really what we plan to do. So the formation of the guild, I founded it back in 2021, and the reason was it was pretty simple actually. That there wasn't I was looking for guidance and advice on my own business, which is a specialist Japanese fermentation business, and I couldn't find it. It wasn't available anywhere, because there wasn't an overarching trade body for fermented foods or specialist fermented foods. And I thought that was quite bizarre. So I decided to start one, and this now looks after all of your sort of quote unquote niche fermented products. So not something like cheese or beer. It's the kimchis, the kombuchas, the kefirs, the misos, all of these smaller categories. And the guild serves as a resource and a body to look after them. Now, it was incorporated and formalized in 2022, where we set it up with an executive structure, where I serve as CEO. We also have a chief trade officer, Mr. James Reed, who will be speaking to you later, a chief financial officer who looks after our finances, and a community officer who looks after public outreach. Now, within that structure, we also have an advisory board of expert fermentation businesses and individuals who advise us and make sure the organization stays on track. At this point, we have 130 member businesses, and we're projected to grow to 300 by the end of 2025. So we're a newer organization, but it's certainly growing, and there's demand for it. So our purpose is essentially to serve as a trade body for fermented foods that aren't represented elsewhere, as mentioned. And our job is to grow the product category and support smaller businesses. One of the main issues we see is that, as actually Cormac mentioned, many of these businesses came out of lockdown. It was smaller scale people who were doing experiments at home and then decided to start their own businesses. Now, what we've run into is that there's a number of individuals, a number of business operators who got into a food business without actually having a full knowledge of how to run a food business. So that includes, as mentioned, non-compliance with some legislation, incorrect labeling, health claims that aren't substantiated. Now, I know that Caroline is going to speak on health claims later, and James is actually going to touch on labeling as well. But the Fermenters Guild serves as a resource in order to guide these people to better comply. One of the issues we also saw was there was a massive mistrust between excuse me, I have some cats fighting. Okay. Sorry about that. There was this massive mistrust between business operators and legislators. Now, this comes from a lot of members and people who operate fermentation businesses felt threatened. They felt that their business was threatened. So rather than working together, they sort of threw down the walls, and that causes a massive issue. So one of the main things we try to do is outreach and to speak to different councils and speak to different environmental health officers to offer educational events similar to this one, to better educate everyone. Now, we also have community events, networking webinars. We regularly run webinars from different experts for our members, and we have collective resource sharing. So that's basically so businesses don't need to tread the same ground that other businesses have. And obviously, we want to see the businesses that we represent We want to see them grow. We want to see them do well. We want to see them take on new staff, enter in new markets. And overall, we want to see more consumption of fermented foods. We want to see more awareness within the public body and within the market. Now, we have done some work with legislators and environmental health. Now, Aberdeen Council, we ran a webinar for them earlier this year, and that involves environmental health officers and managers within the structure of the Food Standards Scotland, and that was to again give a better understanding of what fermented food is and how it's produced and what to look out for, what risk factors there are. We've also been approached by Glasgow City Council and some London boroughs, and this is because again we want to dispel that mistrust that some producers seem to have for environmental health. We want to see that go away because we don't think that that's a beneficial thing. Now, we have managed to form a lab partnership with Microsearch Laboratories. This was a one-year project because we had to find the correct lab that would want to work with us. And the reason we wanted to do this was a lot of our smaller producers, particularly small producers, it's very hard for them to get small batch testing done. The barrier to entry is quite high, especially if you aren't familiar with if you're starting a new business and you aren't fully familiar with what you should be testing for, how the testing process works. So we managed to negotiate lower prices and a specialism in fermented foods. So if a new small producer doesn't particularly know what to test for, what they're looking for, how the testing process works, they can approach our lab, Microsearch, and they will guide them through the process and educate them on how shelf life testing works, what pathogens to look for, and how to set up a regular testing schedule. Now, we do have a number of future plans, which were put in place. I've got some lovely pictures of our symposium that we ran quite recently. Here are some of our wonderful speakers. But a number of things were raised when we discussed, and what we're looking to do is collaborate more with different universities in order to do studies on fermentation. We have a limited number of members who are doing precision and novel fermentation. For example, we have a member business, Win-Win Chocolate, that's making, well, not chocolate, Win-Win Chocolate, that's making chocolate-free chocolate using these precision fermentation techniques. Now, we're also working with the lab to do meta studies on lots of different varieties of fermented products. So to do profiling on not just kimchi as a whole, but lots of different brands of kimchi, so we can see what is expected, what you'd see if there's a recurring problem with certain low counts of pathogen. And we're looking to do probiotic testing with them as well to confirm health claims and to see what probiotic profiles are within fermented products. Now, another big project we have is to set up template HACCPs. So rather than seeing lots of people struggle through building separate HACCPs, although they all need to be very individualized, seeing a template HACCP for specific fermented products that businesses can build from, and also to give them startup guidance. Now, within the Irish sphere, we have a membership in the Republic of Ireland, which is quite limited. I believe we're sitting at 5 or 6 members currently. But for 2025, we are seeking to increase that. And we're looking to increase that by having more management of the guild specifically based in Ireland, and to build a lab partnership here similar to the one we have in the UK. Because whilst the UK-based one can offer testing throughout Europe, there are simple delivery issues and logistical problems that are associated with that. We also want to try to integrate the resources we've built in the UK to suit Irish and European legislation. And as part of that, there's a thing that we're working on, which is the Primary Authority Agreement project. And this is essentially, we forge a relationship with one specific council in the UK. That becomes the primary authority, the expert council on the topic. And then all other councils and environmental health officers defer to that one council. I'm aware that that's not the same system as it is in Ireland, but it would be part of next year's project to be able to utilize the resources gained from that and interface it better into the Irish sphere. So yes, that was the Fermenters Guild, and I recognise that Caroline and James will have a lot to talk about in far more specific detail than this. But that is an overview of what the trade organisation does, what the Fermenters Guild does, and what we're seeking to do. Now, during the Q&A, it would be really good to hear if we have any producers who have specific questions, and also how you would think we can better interface into the Irish sphere. Now, I've included our links, and then actually just a link at the bottom that I put in at the last minute. This is the British Columbia Centre for Disease Control, and they've produced this resource which is on all of the different categories of fermented food, and it gives a really good basic overview of what parameters you would expect in the production and what the fermented product is. And it's very easy to approach, very easy to read. So if someone's very new to fermentation, this is the first thing I would point them towards. So I'm going to pass over to Mr. James Reid, who's going to talk about scaling up fermented foods business. And thank you so much for having me here. And it was great to talk to you all. I look forward to the Q&A.
Great.